Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Probie's Prison. My name is Probie, and I'm joined by Artemis,
Hello.
Atiri,
Hey,
and Shubarino.
What's up, y'all?
So today, our topic is gaming and how it affects us in our daily lives, how we cope with things through gaming, how we come together as a community through gaming. Just kind of talking about our lives and how it revolves around gaming or how gaming has filled into it. We're also going to talk about some games that are coming out, our thoughts on those, and kind of give our point of views on life. So how's everyone doing today?
Pretty good, man. It's been a rather chill day, but other than that, I'm ready to get going.
Shub?
Dude, I'm so freaking excited to be here, man. I have been talking about finding a way to put a podcast together with this community for a really long time. And so tonight is like, I don't know, seeing things come to fruition just makes me giddy, man. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I cannot thank you enough for pushing this, and I love talking to you guys. I talk to you guys every single night, and I also can feel that excitement and that nervousness, but it's just one of those things that, we're all sitting in here every night. We have these great life conversations, and it was all brought through us through gaming. Atiri, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Dealt with the family today. Had a good time. I'm excited to get started on this, so thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to join us. I know that you had a lot going on as well.
Do me a favor here, Probie, and tell everybody a little bit about how we know each other, because we've been talking about sitting in here, doing these things at night, but there's got to be a lot of people out there that aren't aware of Ascended Gaming or what we're doing here. So I think it would be good to kind of set the groundwork.
Yeah, absolutely. I joined this community about a year and a couple months ago. I was looking for a private World of Warcraft server because I needed something to occupy my time. I was kind of going through a little bit of a rough spot and just needed something to take my mind off of it. And I found this community called Ascension. And I loaded it up. It was just me playing for a little bit. And I had the world chat on, which is a chat that, everyone in the game could see. And I saw this group called New to Ascension that was recruiting for their guild, which a guild, for those who may not know, is a group of people who either join for a social aspect or they join to run dungeons to get items for their characters in game, or whatever it may be, right? It's just a group of people that generally you have the same goal in mind of what you want to complete in the game. So I joined, and the leader at the time was this man named Midgicus, which he's still part of the community, but later on he kind of stepped back and, roles shifted. Well, eventually it all changed, and we started moving to a more of a social aspect of it. We created a group called Ascended Gaming, which is what we use to talk to each other every night. We join a Discord, which is open to everyone. We'll make sure to have any type of links on any of our videos on YouTube. We're all just kind of hanging around. We started this big group, and now we're sitting at 2,000 people that join in this Discord. We talk. Some people join us in voice. Some people only join us in text. I've been here for about a year and 3 months, like I said. Artemis, how long have you been here?
I think I joined Ascended Gaming in February of last year.
Okay, so a little over a year. Atiri?
I'm pretty close to the same time frame there.
And we actually just rolled over my 1 year anniversary here, March 5th. March 5th was the day that I originally joined this Discord server. And for reference, this community's only been around for a couple of months before most of us. I know that Probie was basically one of the founders when it comes to putting things together. You said there wasn't a Discord originally?
Yep. When I first joined, there was not a Discord. We did everything through text. And any of our gamers out there that may be listening, imagine doing a raid or any type of content that relies on 10, 20 people, and you're doing everything through text, explanations of bosses and all that. It was a nightmare, and it was put together that we should start a Discord so that it's a little bit more cohesive and smooth flowing. And sometimes you just like to hear the voices of people while you're gaming. It's that social aspect of it.
Man, that's always been it for me. I know I reflected on my year here in the Discord earlier this week, but I can remember getting home from school, middle school, high school, and the first thing I did was get on Skype, and I'd look to see if my friend groups were online so that we could hop on a call and figure out what we were doing that night. And Ascended Gaming has brought that back for me. I mean, like you said, we just hop in here and half of us don't even play Ascension anymore, or not nearly to the capacity we used to.
I do the same thing, man. Every day after work, the first thing I do, I either get a shower or, play with the kids or whatnot. But when they're all set, as soon as I sit down, I load Discord before I load anything else. It's a good place to just chill and hang out with you lot.
I know I personally check my phone multiple times throughout the day, checking everyone's private channels, checking the group channels, seeing how people are doing. I mean, in this Discord, we have channels that just show people's creativity, shows people's pets, which is probably one of my favorite things because I love showing my dogs and seeing other people's dogs.
Retweet.
Yeah, right. It's just, it's so nice to be able to kind of disassociate from everything else and just log in and talk to people. Whether there are nights I've got on here and I don't really feel like playing anything, and I just sit here and I watch someone else play. Like, isn't that crazy though? Like, that's a thing.
I've had so many people that are older than me make fun of me for watching other people play video games. And I always liken it to like people watching like football games. Like, you watch other people play games too. Why don't you get on the field?
Yeah, right.
I mean, not only that, one of the greatest things is, especially after a rough day of work or, a bad day doing your adulting, being able to come home with people who get it and sit down and talk about the day I've had, the thing that my boss did, the complications I had with, my car, and having everybody just understand it is a fantastic thing.
That's a +1 for me. Like,
Yeah,
just
same.
being able to come home and be like, you know what happened at work today, or you won't believe like what happened, or even today, for example. Like, I went on a bowling tournament, right, which is why we started a little late tonight. And I went on a bowling tournament and I ended up getting 4th out of 86, right? But there was a stream of us bowling. One of the guys on my pair was streaming it, and he made the comment to me. He said, everyone in my stream right now seems to know you, and I'm guessing you're the one that put out my link. And I was like, yeah. I told them that I was going bowling and they wanted to watch, so I provided it to them. But we all started on this little private WoW server, and now it's like we know so much about each other, and we've never physically met,
Yeah, I do want to circle back though, because you used the word dissociate earlier. And I do want to talk about posit the idea that there are some negatives with a Discord server that is quite as easy to fall into as this.
Sure.
One. Since, mental health is a big thing we want to talk about here. I just want to that we've definitely run into people who should not spend the time that they do in Discord.
Hi.
It's very easy to see that in some people, and it's hard. I know Probie mentioned some of the roles change. One of the things that Probie and Artemis and Atiri and I do, actually all of us, is we're part of what we would consider the leadership of the Discord. We're making decisions on, what other games are coming in, moderation, this podcast, for example, and the marketing around it. And I think we can all stand here and say that it comes to a point where we're also not mental health counselors. And it's very hard for us to make some of the decisions we have to in a community with, even 200 people. But like Probie said, there's 2,000 people here.
I said dissociate, right? And you're right. That's not the correct term, because we've had examples of people who we've had to talk to about like, hey, look, I think you need some time away, whether that's just a little bit of time off or I won't name names, but we had an individual that he actually had to step away and he just disappeared for a few months. And you worry about them, especially if they don't say anything. But when he came back, he's like, I got the help I needed. I was spending so much time online and it wasn't healthy for me because I wasn't dealing with my real life problems. It's very easy to fall into the trap of, I just have to make it through the day so I can get online and then forget about all my other problems. And then you stop taking care of yourself. You stop doing the things that you also need to do. So as much as it is a crutch, it can also be one of those things that it also can put you in a worse spot.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance.
I will say, though, that Artemis here has definitely called me when I have been the one avoiding my real life problems. And that's, I guess, how I wanted to wrap that around is like the people here have definitely made it a lot easier to feel like you can be talked to and talk about those sorts of things. I mean, everybody in this call has heard me bitch about something in my life at this point over the course of this year. And some of those things have literally been like, Itiri took the whole Discord server from me for a couple of months because I couldn't handle it. I was here too much. I crumbled under the pressure. So there's definitely the pros and cons. It's about finding the right people. And I think that's really what I wanted to exemplify there is like this group of people that we found has definitely been a really positive impact on a lot of people, I think.
I mean, that's the thing, though. If we can't find the balance ourselves, that's part of the reason that we found each other. Because if I'm here too much and somebody's like, yo, dude, you said you wanted to go do this, that, or the other with the kids and you haven't done that yet. Are you in a space where you can do that? We can push each other to not only escape our life, but we can also push each other to get back into it in a safe and healthy manner.
Yeah, and I think all of us really have had that point where we've also had to step away to recalculate ourselves. Like I've done it. I've had to step out when I was getting too engulfed in what we were doing, and it caused me issues. So I had to step out to reset essentially, and then come back at it. So
yeah, I spent a month and a half away because of it. I was getting on, and I wasn't feeling any type of my normal self on my online presence, right? So I'd be sitting here and I'd be gaming or whatever, and I'd just be getting either upset or more depressed. And I had to step away and just kind of focus on myself for a little bit because, we're in a community. We are a gaming community. It's not like it's just us four people. We have a whole community to help take care of. And that can be taxing at times to where we want to provide this place where you can be whoever you want to be, I know some of us are coders here, some of us work in finances, some of us work in a general assembly type scenario or a factory or however you want to call it, right? We all come from these different walks of life, but yet we still experience the same types of problems. We're just kind of bound together by our love for gaming, and we've moved that to a personal level as well, as where, if we don't hear from one or the other for a night or two when we normally expect to hear from them, we say, oh, hey, man, are you doing all right? Is everything good? Is there anything I can help you with?
Dude, more motherfuckers in this community have my cell phone number than do in my real life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I've made lifelong friends in the year I've been here. And I think with our attention economy, lifelong friends, it doesn't mean that you have to have spent years and years and years together. I think the ability for us to get on here and be ourselves has allowed us to build these relationships faster than people can face to face a lot of the time comparatively, because there's that sense of anonymity. Like I can tell you guys that I did some dumb shit. You guys, like, what are you guys going to do past being like, Shub did some dumb shit?
Yeah, there's no repercussion to that. And it's kind of fantastic because especially with those of us who have, anxiety, ADHD, problems like that, it's really hard for us to make that connection when we're sitting with somebody. But when it's just a voice over a microphone or some text in a game, it removes a lot of that anxiety and you can be yourself more freely. It's fantastic.
There's a lower barrier to entry.
I can't tell you the amount of nights that I've sat here and been crying from laughing so hard about either just the conversation we're having or the night we did the drunken Discord and we got on and played Phasmophobia and played, what was the other games that we played online?
The like Drawful and like the really dumb browser-based games, but we were giggling, dude. We were giggling for like 4 straight hours.
Or even the drunken Kara raid.
Oh my God. Laughing so hard that I feel like I'm going to throw up at times. And then you look back on the night and you're like, this is what I needed, right? And sometimes you can't get that with, like Shub said, the friends that like in person, face to face, because they see as much as the life that you guys see, you see more of a raw side of it because you hear the voice and you have that anonymity, like he said, of I can tell you my problems and you're going to respond to it as this is a friend that I've been talking to that I may know what they look like. I've talked to them for, the last year or whatever. But when you're in person, it's I see their day-to-day life and, it's whatever, like they'll be fine. But here, sometimes there are nights that someone gets on and they just start talking and you hear it in their voice and you're like, are you all right? Like, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I can tell you the number of times that I've seen coworkers come in at the plant and you can't tell if there's anything wrong with them. There's nothing there. You don't have the investment that I think you have with people that you spend your recreational time with outside of that.
I was just going to parrot that. It's about who you spend your free time with, not who you're forced to spend time with.
Exactly, because I couldn't tell you any of my coworkers if they have any issues, or I couldn't tell you what goes on in their day to day. But you guys, like, I watched Probie pull a game from hundreds of miles away earlier tonight, and I was really invested. I seen a seven
Probie's really
strikes
good
in
at
a
bowling,
row,
by the
man.
way, y'all.
There was 7 in a row, and I was really invested when that spare came through, Probie. I was feeling for you, man.
I just want to say again, I got 4th in that tournament out of 86, and I lost to. So there's a woman that I go with a group of people typically, and one of the women that goes with us, we ended up bowling each other in the semifinals of the stepladder. I actually ended up losing to her, and I could have won. And I'm not one to make excuses. I just bowled bad. It was my lowest game of the day, and she won, and then she ended up losing in the finals. But it was just it I'm not gonna lie, it was so surreal to me that when I put that stream on, I thought, maybe 1 or 2 people are gonna watch. And then as I'm looking at Discord in between games and stuff, I'm seeing 5, 6, 7, 8 people messaging, and then my buddy goes, there's like 9 people in my chat and I don't know any of them and they're all rooting for you. That's the community that we have, it's the bonds of, it's not just like, oh, I got online tonight and I played a game and that's it. Like, we get on and we use gaming to connect with each other.
And that actually even makes my segue better, because I was going to say, isn't gaming so depressing lately? Like, I don't know, man. Trashy segue aside, I've been really disappointed with damn near every game that I've played over the last 5 years or something.
AAA just means triple ass.
Not even AAA, man. Like, even indie games and stuff, like nothing. I've literally been playing RuneScape more than anything else, and RuneScape's a 22-year-old game. Like, I don't know. I've been playing retail WoW with my wife, which is like something I thought I'd never say again, but Dragonflight's actually fun. But like, I don't know, man. I've just been really disappointed with games. Like, I've been playing a lot of like freemium titles, like lots of Path of Exile and stuff, but I don't know. Like, I want to be hopeful, but the only game on my radar right now is like Diablo 4. And again, Blizzard games, it feels really bad to feel like I want to give them money.
So with that, I have read a lot of stuff about Diablo 4 because I loved the Diablo series growing up. It was actually one of the first online games that I played outside of RuneScape was Diablo 2. In the cow level, right?
Here.
So my biggest thing about it is, and I have scoured everywhere, and they swear up and down that they're not doing microtransaction for pay for power. And to me, that's one of the biggest trends that kills a game right now is you pay this $60 fee to buy the game, and then you log in, and I want my time to be valued because as much as I'm online, I still value that time. And the last thing I want to see is we got microtransaction that you can buy keys to get random gear that may or may not make you stronger, or gems for Diablo Immortal where they just you couldn't get past a certain point because of the transactions.
I don't even think we need to talk about Diablo Immortal, man. The internet knows that game. That game was a trash fire.
I don't know. I think there's relevance to that, though, speaking of D4, because when they announced Immortal, they were even telling everybody, there's tweets you can go back online throughout their feed. And there's a tweet that they put out like 6 months before release where they were saying it would not be a pay-to-win game. And then launch happens, and what do we have? We have locks on all of the in-game dungeon systems. You get 1 or 2 freebies per day, and then after that, you either have to hope a random drop happens or throw real money at it, and that's the only way you can continue going. So with them saying the same things about Diablo 4, how many of these are actually going to be real money gated and how much are going to be just cosmetic?
And that right there is exactly what I'm terrified of, is that they were ready to die on the hill of Diablo Immortal won't be microtransaction power based, and then next thing you know, that's all it was.
That's it. That's every bit of it.
That was neck deep.
I guess my problem with it realistically is not that it's microtransaction based, because let's be honest, we're at a point where all software is as a service, and games, they were going to head that way anyway. Like, that is just how our economy works, our attention economy, even if we're not even talking financially. But my problem is that Diablo Immortal is so unapologetically and unabashedly a bad video game because of it. If it was a good video game that had microtransactions, I'd be willing to look past it a little bit more. But it's not even a video game without paying for it.
True. And one thing I want to explain to people who may not be gamers, microtransactions are, so you pay your fee to buy a game, right? So most big title games, which are games that are made by well-known developers, are typically $60 to $80, depending on what game it is and what company. Microtransactions are these things that you can go on the game, say a game has gems that make you stronger. Well, you can log into the game and you could go kill things for hours and maybe get one of those gems, or you could spend 99 cents and buy a chest that's guaranteed to give you a gem, but it's a random gem in the game. And then you could pay more to upgrade the chances of you getting a better one. It's a quick way of boosting your power in games, whatever that may be. Or, for example, Candy Crush. I know tons of people played Candy Crush. You're probably very familiar with it. If you wanted more lives, you could pay for that. And at the time, Candy Crush was one of the newer things to do this. It wasn't such a big deal, and people were like, oh, I don't have to. I can just wait time. But now it's becoming a common thing in games to be able to pay for something that boosts your power.
And I think that is the fundamental disconnect, is the difference between paying for power and paying for progress and paying for cosmetics. There are like 3 different kinds of microtransactions.
Yeah, and I think a big thing too is it wouldn't be so bad having like microtransactions inside of games to an extent, but I think a huge issue is how malicious or
predatory
predatorial tactics they use to get you to either purchase things or make it so you feel you have to make that purchase and put your credit card on the line to actually get where you want to be progression wise, or even to stay with your friends. Maybe they're farther ahead than you or whatever that may be. Then they gate everything behind special coin ops, so you can't gauge the value anymore of what you're spending your actual money on, which makes it even worse.
And one great example that I know people like Josh Strife Hayes has done is when you speak about predatory, say you may be able to buy one box for $1, or you could buy enough gems for $1 to get you one box that would give you an item, right? But when you pay that $1, say it's 100 gems for $1, so it's a 1-to-1 ratio here. Well, companies, instead of doing that, they give you 190 gems for one box for $1. And the next tier box is 200 gems, right? So you pay the $1, you could buy the one box, and I could pay $2, but then you're getting 250 gems. And they do that structure all the way through. So you never feel like you're spending all your gems that you've put money into. So you feel like you're wasting it. So you just keep falling into a cycle of, how can I spend my money to where I have no gems left and I'm still getting boxes? And to do that, you have to either sit there and add it all up, which means you're spending more than the $1 that you originally planned on spending, or you're never going to get that. So you look at it and you always keep coming back to it.
There's definitely a correct way to do it. And for me, one of the prime examples is a lot of the MOBAs out right now that are offering, you can unlock all of the characters in a reasonable amount of time. League of Legends, Smite, stuff like that. You can actually unlock all of the playable characters, 1, 2, 3 a day of the 125 or so in them. But all of their cosmetics are where they get their money, their microtransactions, and it's not forced on you that bad. Whereas a lot of the mobile games and a lot of the launcher style games that we're starting to see become more prevalent, it's all in your face, and there's no way to get around it. So there's definitely a correct way to do it. They are companies, they got to make some money off of it.
Sure.
But the predatory nature that we're talking about is that's something we've got to find a way to get away from.
Okay, so thoughts on games like Path of Exile, right? You cannot pay for power in Path of Exile, but you can pay for convenience. To me, I feel like that's a acceptable thing.
I would argue that stash tabs in Path of Exile are more than convenience.
100% agree.
Which is playing semantics here. But the fact of the matter is that without a currency tab, you cannot compete with the upper echelon of players at all. You cannot store 5,000 chaos in one inventory spot without that tab. And to compete with the people who have piles of gold. I mean, even myself as a crafter, this league, I ended up feeling like I almost wanted a second currency tab because I had extra stacks of currency popping everywhere. So while I agree with you, and I do not believe that Path of Exile is predatory, I think that they ride a very fine line with the inconveniences that you have if you don't buy the conveniences.
I would agree with that because every time a new league mechanic comes out, with the exception of Sanctum, I'm a new player to Path of Exile, so I'm not 100% on that. But when you have new league mechanics come out, a lot of them have had extra stash tabs that almost feel mandatory. Because I know, this being my first league, there was the catalysts, the delirium orbs. They started taking up so much space that I felt that I needed to have those just to clear up the extra space.
Or if nothing else, you're buying the quad tabs so that you have enough space to store all of the random garbage.
Agreed.
I mean, maps, look at Motown, right? Motown has over 1,500 of one of 16. There's 16 tiers of maps, and of tier 16, he has 1,500 of them. In the free space, that would take up all of them. So, maybe pay for convenience isn't the correct idea because, yes, if you get really hard into the game, you have to spend money. It's one of the first things I told you guys of, these are the tabs I would get when they go on sale. Now, leading into that, when they do a new league, they go on sale the second week of the league, every league.
I think that their pricing structure makes it feel not predatory because at the end of the day, it's about spending $60 per league, and each league feels sort of like a new AAA title.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. They have enough content that I'm not trying to say it's predatory. I think if we're talking pay for convenience, I think RuneScape 3 is actually a much better example.
Okay, yeah.
Because the keys in RuneScape 3 can be used for the gambling system called Treasure Hunter. And generally speaking, the bulk of what you get from that is bonus experience, which is basically getting half an experience for every experience you gain until you've run through it, or a flat amount of experience right now. And all of that experience can be gained in game. When you hit the max level in the skills, you still have to go back to unlock the items in those skills or whatever else. But it is paying to progress. It's paying for convenience. You hit a grind and you don't really want to go farm this thing for 20 hours. You pay $20, you dump your experience into it. You don't have to do that grind anymore.
So the big thing that I'm wanting to get out of that is, for example, you said the keys, and it is a gambling system, right? Because you don't know what you're going to get. It gives you an idea. It's essentially a slot machine. It says, this is what you could get. And the thing I want to get out of it is at what part does something go from this is convenience or pay for power, which, depending on how you look at it, could either ruin a player's experience, or if you're someone with no time but money, you could pay to catch up and get to where you want. But at what point do you say, okay, this is predatory because now you're creating people who have essentially gambling problems? And one of the big things that comes to my mind that I don't personally see talked about enough is EA's FIFA. Every season, you have to unlock the players. And if you want to play competitively, you have to buy packs to get the best players again. To me, it is extremely predatory. You're paying $60 for a FIFA game, sometimes more, and then you're dumping hundreds of dollars. That little kid who bought $1,000 in packs on his mom's credit card without telling her, which is a whole different problem that he had access to it. It goes to show that, like, this kid wanted one specific player. I believe it was Ronaldo. And he spent $1,000 to get this one card so that he could have his favorite player on his team. We talk about depression. Think about spending all your money to try and get something that you want, and then you spend thousands of dollars and you're really just hurting yourself.
Or just not getting it all after all that.
The problem is that we've been doing that since like 1992.
Right.
You ever played Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, the trading card game?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the same. It's the exact same system. It's buying a predetermined amount of things and praying that what's inside of them is the thing you want. Like, it's been a staple of gaming for as long as there have been things to collect inside of games.
And I think part of the issue with that is the fact that it enhances and helps develop the gambling nature, which it tends to grow and take you to other heights, whether that's in games and you spend way too much money, or you end up at a casino and gamble away lots of money for no real reason because you're just looking for that next high, the next big amount of income or whatever you're going to get out of what you're trying to do. I think that's a problem.
It's a very slippery slope, and there's games that take it to a whole new level. A couple of the ones I quit because I started getting into that myself, I think happened before I met Ascended Gaming, which I'm glad I did. Anyway, was Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact, I got very hard into it and spent a little more than I should have there, and it was one of those things where I got lucky and was able to pull myself out of the rabbit hole, but there's a YouTuber that I watch, whom I won't name just in case, got so far into debt he almost lost his house out of it. It's a real problem that we need to do something about.
Sure. My guilty pleasure was when I was in the Army. I played a game called Rift, and I played it for a little bit after I got out. And I have gone back to look at how much money I spent on Rift, and I was lucky enough that I was in a situation to where like I virtually had no bills when you look at like the overall after being out of the military compared to when I was in. And I had spent almost $3,000 in 2 years on a video game on Rift, just to get. And there's really at the beginning wasn't pay for power. It was all like this battle pass thing, but it's not really a battle pass. It's the more money you spend, the higher the tier is. And the higher the tier is, the better rewards you get. So like I felt like I needed to get the black tier, which was the highest tier at the time, so I could maximize all the rewards I was getting. So I just kept, every paycheck, I was like, all right, I had money set aside out of every paycheck that I got to spend on a game because I felt like I needed to get my tier all the way up. Otherwise I was missing out.
Yeah, a lot of games now are doing that, calling it VIP ranking. A lot of the mobile games do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you start out at VIP 1, VIP 2, and it's not only that, a lot of games will allow you to display that as a title, so there's that in-game prestige that comes with it. You get to show everybody else your title because you spent so much money, and it's just a whole new layer to an already predatory system.
So that brings an interesting concept in. Also, one of mine I used to spend a lot of money on for no real reason was Albion Online, if anyone's played that one.
Yep.
So this is a game that was built on the concept of like an old school game like Ultima Online, where you lose everything when you get killed, and that's how players can gain your gear, etc. And the entire economy in the game is based on player interaction only. So there's no NPCs, there's nothing that helps you get anything other than killing like some monsters in the world or crafting it, right? That's it. Then the player interactions sell your gear. So the only way you can obtain things, if you're not willing to do the crafting hours, which can be daunting, is you can buy gold from their website, right? Which you can use to buy cosmetics, don't get me wrong, but you can also buy that gold so you can use on the auction house to buy gear from other players. So then you can go out and lose that gear to another player, and then you're back in this endless loop of, well, I lost everything. Now I got to spend more money to buy gear so I can do it again. So I find that I saw one of my friends that I used to play with quite frequently. He blew almost $3,000 to $4,000 in 1 month on that game alone because of that endless cycle he kept doing.
I wonder if there's something to be said about the economics behind this sort of system, though. Like, don't get me wrong. I think they're predatory systems, like across the board. At any point, if it feels like gambling, it probably shouldn't be in video games. Like, I know video games being based loosely on some sort of random number generator or RNG, there's always going to be a sense of gambling. But like, I'd be willing to take a step back and say that the majority of Path of Exile is a slot machine, and it probably shouldn't be a game. I love the game. I love playing it. I have an addictive personality, but like, even the game itself, like I said, you feel like you have to buy those stash tabs. And when you buy those stash tabs, you feel like you have to play more. And when you play more, you're doing more gambling, which is creating a cycle of that addictive behavior. And that's just because that's the way the gameplay systems are. But then you look at something like these microtransactions that we've been talking about, and like, these companies have to make money, right? Like I don't want them to be predatory, but I also know that we probably wouldn't have half of like Fortnite wouldn't be a game still if it didn't have microtransactions.
Sure. So when do you draw the line, though?
So that's I guess that's what I'm saying is like I wonder how much leeway companies get for being in a shit economic situation, because we're all in a shit economic situation right now. And I wonder how we draw that line because, I mean, without getting too much into the politics of it all, it's damn near impossible to actually draw that line.
Okay, so that leads in something I'd like to talk about battle passes. How do you feel about battle passes? Because I know we all play Smite to some extent. Smite has a battle pass. Path of Exile's battle pass is, in my opinion, just shit. You their quote unquote battle pass is like completely progression based, and the majority of players never make it to where they'd get the full effect of it. But then you got games like Smite that every single game that you play, and Smite is a MOBA where it's like the matches can be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour long, or even 15 minutes to an hour long. But when you buy the battle pass, they have a free route. So you can still, by playing the game, you don't feel like you're missing out on a whole lot. But then they have a premium route to where it's like the free route may be 1 through 60 levels and you get something every other level. Well, if you buy the premium, you get the free and the premium has rewards every level. And to me, like, I think the Smite one, if you compare it to in-game items that you could buy, the cosmetics, because that's all it is skins and cosmetics and all that, I think it evens out to where, like, you're not really gaining a whole lot by doing the battle pass aside from a skin that you may not be able to get otherwise. But I don't feel like I'm paying an exorbitant amount to do the battle pass. But there are games that are like that.
I am of the opinion that we live in an attention economy, so I cannot blame game developers for wanting to have a daily system where you feel like you have to come back to progress. That being said, my favorite battle passes have always been ones that I buy the first one, and if I put in enough time, I'm awarded enough currency to buy the next one.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Smite's like that. If you don't spend gems on anything else and you completely level it up, you have, at least it used to be, I haven't looked at the amount of currency that you get now. I am not 100% that that's still a thing, but it used to be to where if you did enough time in the game, you got enough currency to buy the next battle pass when it came out. And I can appreciate that because, yes, I'm paying an entry fee, so to speak, but I'm also being rewarded by them saying, okay, look, you did this. So as long as you keep doing this, we'll keep rewarding you by letting you have the next battle pass.
And yeah, I mean, most games have moved away from that. There were some that I liked to play even that have moved away from that since that used to have that system. And I think that's functionally the problem is like, even if like it requires you to do the entire battle pass to rebuy it, that's okay with me because at the end of the day, if it's your core game, you're going to get it. And if you fall off, you might be willing to buy it again. You know what I'm saying? Like it's battle passes where it's like, if you buy this battle pass, we give you 12 times the rewards. You get 400 extra energy today. You get like, you know, a laundry list of benefits. It feels like you have to buy it. That's when I have a problem with battle passes.
Yeah, and with the battle pass that Probie's talking about in Smite, there's a lot of games that do it. I played Magic the Gathering Arena, and they have the exact same setup for their battle pass. And if you do buy the battle pass, you don't get enough gems to buy the next one, but you're not so short that you can't get it because you can collect them elsewhere in the game, you know, doing drafts and stuff like that. So there are other ways to make up the difference. And the battle passes in that game, they don't feel 100% necessary on the premium side of it. You get some good rewards from the free one, and the paid one is nice, but it's not, I have to have this in order to progress or keep up.
Yeah, you're not gonna suffer on like a rank standpoint or anything like that because you can still earn those rewards in other areas of the game.
Well, I'm just specifically talking about the battle pass itself because Magic the Gathering has a whole different issue with it when it comes to money.
I do think that functionally us being in an attention economy is the problem here. Like battle passes are predatory. Systems that make you feel like you are getting the fear of missing out or FOMO are predatory by nature. That's literally what they're there for.
I mean, people's attention span, they say what, 7 seconds?
They've been saying 7 seconds for like the last 10 years. I'm sure it's shorter than that at this point between Vine and TikTok's rise to fame.
Yeah.
So I know I work in marketing, and a lot of the time they say that we should write marketing copy for people between a 4th and 7th grade reading level. So that's the bar we've set.
I'm kind of the problem there. I mean, how many times do you guys see me hopping games, right? Like I always have games that I come back to depending on the time of the year or release dates for new content and all that. But how many times have you guys seen me like log into Steam and open up a game and it be something completely new because I'm like, well, I played this other one for a week and a half and now I feel like I don't have anything else to do, so I'm just going to get a new one.
I mean, that leads us to a whole new issue of release dates. How many of these games that we play that have a new season, a new league, a new, setup, and it coincides with another game we play, and that leads right back to that fear of missing out that Shub was talking about a minute ago, where which game do I play? How much time do I have to put into this one to keep up? How much time do I have to put into this one to keep up? And then that just leads right back into the predatory system of I can pay in this game to catch up, so I need to focus on the other one. I could just pay to catch up in the other one later.
I would love to have a life chart that shows me how much money I've spent in games.
No, you wouldn't.
Well-
I would be depressed.
Logging in, League of Legends just released a thing where you can log into their website and they'll tell you all of the money you've spent on their account. I've spent $660 on League when I used to play it.
Oh God!
I think I saw somebody in our community that had almost 14,000 pounds spent.
I would have to log into my account that got banned because I was a toxic little shit at one point. And was.
I'd like to take a step back though, Probie. You said that you feel like you're part of the problem. I would argue more that you're a product of your environment.
That's fair.
And I think that's functionally the problem too, is that people, I feel like when people are comfortable or addicted to something, they're okay with feeling like they're part of the problem because, it's a thing I like anyway, like who cares? But when you know that something else has caused you to act a certain way, you're more willing to make a change, right? Because then you have control of your life.
Okay, so that leads to a question, like, how many of you feel like you're addicted to gaming?
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
When I find a game that scratches the itch, I put 400 hours into a Path of Exile League after not having played that game at all previously.
So do you feel like it's a problem?
Oh, it absolutely is. Especially when I hit a good dopamine printer, it's absolutely a problem. It 100% is. I've actually, I've had conversations with my wife about the fact that there are certain games that make me feel like I am in a relationship with my computer instead of her.
I get that.
So yeah, it absolutely is a problem. And I want to say that I'm a product of my environment with my particular flavor of mental illness. I am more susceptible to the predatory systems. But I also recognize that and am very self-aware. And a lot of the times I choose to be a part of the predatory systems.
Sure. And how much of that would you guys say stems from your normal day-to-day life that you feel like you've been kind of pushed to this and this is what feels good, right? Like this is your outlet that lets you escape the rest of the stuff.
I think that's the major key point is like a lot of us, so you work your day job or whatever it may be throughout the day, you don't get to unwind or feel relaxed during that time period. So you get a lot of pent up stress. And when you get home, you're like, well, I want to unwind. And well, at one point that used to mean going out and having a beer with your friends or sitting and watching an episode of something on TV, where times now have really modified themselves to being more interaction based, which is why games have thrived, allowing people to kind of de-stress themselves in that manner by working with others or using a system that just gives them that dopamine they need to make them feel good. And I think it kind of drags you in almost instead of, it makes it almost feel like you have to do it in a way.
I think part of it wrecks back around to that idea of escapism as well. The idea that I might work a shitty job or I might be bad at my relationship or whatever else. But when I log into my favorite video game, I'm the hero of time. I'm an epic warrior. I'm managing an entire business empire. I'm doing any number of things that there's no way for me to even equate my real life to because I'm just not that successful, experienced, skilled, et cetera, et cetera.
So do you feel like gaming has kind of picked up on that and they got to know, right? Like gaming companies have to know that in the society that we live in, that this is an outlet and they might as well benefit from that outlet monetarily.
Oh, 100%.
The attention economy wrapped right back around. They are capitalizing on you feeling like you have to spend your free time someplace. And they are attempting to trick you into thinking that their place is the best.
It would be an absolute breath of fresh air to see a game come out. A completed game. Let's start with that. A completed game that doesn't ask me to spend additional money, that doesn't feel like I have to put additional time into it beyond what I should be. And I really don't think we're going to see that with the state of current businesses.
That's my biggest thing right there is, I spend a lot of money on gaming and I don't mind doing it. I'm doing okay compared to a lot of people. I'm doing decent, right? But my thing is when I pay for a game, I expect it to be completed because it's my time that I'm paying for. And it's
Absolutely.
your time as a developer that you put into it. I don't know how some of these games are released and they're these jumbled messes of shit and they expect people to pay for it. And then when they do, they get upset that people complain about it of like, your game doesn't work. And that is something that I was excited for. I'm just going to throw out the low hanging fruit of Cyberpunk 2077. People took off work months in advance. They kept pushing back the release. They built all this hype around it. It was supposed to be the new generation of games. It was supposed to be this almost like a savior of gaming in that genre. And then it released and it didn't work on some consoles. Unless your PC was a Giga PC, like it had all these textural bugs, and it had that for months, even almost a year after it released. It's just now getting to a playable state. I did a run through of it a couple months ago and still ran into breaking bugs every few hours.
Well, when you're looking at Cyberpunk, like that brings another whole like can of worms into it. Like when they talked about revolutionizing that entire genre, they didn't even meet the standard when they launched of what that current genre was. Like if you were to take that game and set it side by side with like GTA at the time, like they didn't even have the same entire like breakdown of systems in there. They didn't have the same like feel to them. They weren't even close in comparison. Like GTA was another league ahead of them. So to tell you that we have revolutionized it and have you feel that, oh man, I have to play this game because of that, was just wrong, right? Because it's false advertisement in a way, because you're telling them you have it, but you really aren't even close.
Another game that falls under this that I think I have more to talk about, I guess, because Cyberpunk was never on my radar. I didn't even know it was in development for 10 years until like the last 3 years it was in development, was No Man's Sky. They did the same thing. They promised the craziest space explorer you'd ever seen with all of your friends and that game was literally a dumpster fire for 2.5 years until they rebuilt damn near the whole thing. And I wonder, because I am not currently in game dev, what that is to say about the developers and what that is to say about the publishing companies. Because like,
I think it's a little both.
You can look at a game like No Man's Sky and like be really frustrated with the first rendition because same thing. People pre-ordered it. It was one of the most wishlisted games on Steam ever at one point. And it was a dumpster fire. But in the same capacity, you can look at something like Sons of the Forest that just came out in an alpha. So an incomplete game, absolutely. $30. They've said that that's what it's going to be. And the devs are literally taking bug feedback and reporting that they're fixing things every day. They're working with the community to build this game. I feel very comfortable having given them $30 to play their alpha right now.
And see, the same thing's going on with Last Epoch right now. I mean, it's in its 0.9 patch, 0.9b patch, and it's we just got a multiplayer patch, and the devs are in the chat all the time reporting back, we're aware of this bug, we're working on it. They're communicating with everybody, and that's a dev team of what, 5 people? So how is it that this tiny little group of people are able to do so much that AAA titles can't do? I don't understand this.
Publishing their own game and not looking to make infinity dollars off of you.
Yeah, they want to make a product that keeps people happy, and promises that they made, they want to fulfill those promises. And one of the things I really like about Last Epoch is that, and again, this can be a slippery slope of listening to your players. When they announced that they weren't going to ever include trading, it essentially killed the game overnight. They took that feedback from the players and said, okay, we hear you loud and clear. We understand that the people saying this aren't just people from the outside. These are people who have been playing the game since we first put it on Steam, and we're going to make it right. This is what you clearly want, and we're not going to fight you on it, but we're going to come to a compromise that makes us happy, but also gives you what you're asking for.
they've done that on multiple fronts too. So if you look at any of the big AAA titles that ever come out, multiplayer titles specifically, every time they launch, without fail, it's a buggy mess. There's login queues that you have to sit in for 5 hours, and if you get disconnected, you can't get back in. You know, all of these issues. Last Epoch, when it started out with the multiplayer, because they had so many people purchase it the last couple of days leading up to it, they said, we're aware of the problem. They had a fix within 8 hours, and everybody was logging in. You know, it was still a little rocky, some lag and stuff. This tiny little group is able to solve an issue like that these AAAs cannot do. When's the last time you've seen Blizzard launch anything that didn't fall apart for 3 days at least?
Exactly. And what's crazy, I want to put some numbers to that, right? They made the claim, which I very vaguely verified by doing just some Google searches, but they made the claim that like 3 days before launch, when they announced the multiplayer patch was coming out, they sold like 2 million copies of their game. They're a 5-man dev team, and they fixed a queue problem and a server-side problem in 24 hours with, I think he said yesterday when we were playing, the lead dev said that they had 35,000 people playing at that time. Concurrent players at that time was 35,000, and they had fixed the login issues in 24 hours.
That's one of the things I'm saying. We need to, like, this should be a lesson to these AAA titles that we have small teams that are actually starting to do the job right. And they need to take lesson of this. Otherwise, they're going to lose all of their player base to these smaller companies or these smaller groups of people.
Well, it's more saying to them, it's the problem is you have these AAA companies and they may have 50 to 100 dev people on there depending on the size of the company. And they say it's impossible for them to fix this issue in, you know, a quick span. It's going to take them a week or whatever. And then a small team can come out and do it in a much shorter time frame. So it almost looks like you're just giving us an excuse. You're not actually, either you have an issue of your people who aren't experienced enough to fix the problem, or you're giving us a line just because you don't feel like it, or you have such poor communication skills between your team that you cannot get the work done effectively. And that is a major dilemma.
It happens so much with AAA titles that are these hundreds of millions of dollar companies that they have these issues and then they turn around and they say, well, we can't fix this immediately, or this is going to take us a month to fix. Or, for example, Path of Exile, as much as I love that game, the amount of times I've been burned by it, by they saying, we're not going to do this because we know the players won't like it. And then they shadow put that into the game. Don't put it in development notes. Don't put it in patch logs. Don't put it in their manifesto. And then players find out and they go, oopsie, you caught us. And it's like, at what point do you say stop? Again, this is where that slippery slope comes, right? As players, we don't want these companies to take our time and treat it like trash, but we also want some type of accountability of like, we're the ones paying you for this game. We're the ones spending the money. When you're making a change that makes you have the lowest player retention of any content update that you've done, that has to send a sign that says something needs to change.
I think it comes back to that attention economy, man, because like, you're right, something needs to change. But what a lot of these game developers have done is they've faked the value, how valuable your time is, right? Like going back to battle passes, microtransactions, mobile games, that sort of thing. I feel like a lot of them make you feel like your time is progressing. I mean, how many of you have played an idle game where you go to bed the first night after, you know, clicking on it for an hour and not feeling like you make progress, and your AFK bonus or whatever is so freaking big that all of a sudden you've progressed like 30 times the amount of stages that you've gone.
Oh, absolutely. I've got 2 of them on my phone now.
These games, they lie about the how valuable your time is. They make it feel like it's way more valuable. And I also wanted to come back around, and we talked about Last Epoch and Sons of the Forest, but your original assertion was that you wanted full, complete games. And I think that's false. I don't think that you want completed games. I think you want games that feel like they respect your time.
That's fair.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Because again, I none of us can sit here and say we haven't played games that are in beta or in alpha or whatever else and haven't purchased them.
I mean, half time they're better than the games that are
Half the
full
time they're
release.
better than they are because most of these companies know that their foundation is solid and they need that player interaction in order to do better. Like, and I really think that might actually be the long and the short of it. Is the line is actually drawn when you realize how much player feedback you actually have to take. Because at the end of the day, the game developers are the professionals, right? Like they went to school for it probably. They've been developing games for some amount of time. We're playing the game and paying them for it. But if they're taking no feedback, it ends up being something like Candy Crush, right? Because I really would be able to count on my one hand how many times Activision Blizzard King has taken community feedback and actually done something good with it.
So I just kind of want to...
When you find that game that respects your time, it doesn't matter what systems are in it. It doesn't matter how complete it is. It's about feeling like that free time is spent productively. And whether that productively is like being able to spend it with friends, like, again, you said Last Epoch exploded because you could play with friends all of a sudden. Or if it's like you want to feel like your progression, like it's just about making those systems feel good without forcing me to pay for it. And when they don't feel good, listening and interpreting that feedback in a way that improves those systems.
I think one of the big things that companies fail on for me is that some of them will start out respecting your time, but over time, the respect for your time dissipates and then it ends up into nothing. And that's one of my main issues with a lot of games now with World of Warcraft. I played World of Warcraft from launch up until Mist of Pandaria came out because I got to a point where I felt like they weren't respecting my time.
A good way to look at it is we keep going back to old games, right? Everyone that wants to get value or feel that they're actually getting something that they wanted out of their game compared to what we get nowadays most of the time is like you go back to Diablo 2 or you go back to RuneScape, or you're going back to games that are 20 years old easily just to find that same fulfillment because they got it right the first time instead of branching off into some weird oblivion that they've gone to now. Now, when you have games like Last Epoch that are, there may be more bare bone in comparison to other games system-wise, but the systems they do have make you feel good when interacting with them and actually want to use those systems, which is nice. It's a good change.
So take note, AAAs. Take note.
You're on notice.
Literally, man, I just want to
Right?
be able to have a game where a bunch of my friends enjoy it and feel like their time is being spent well so we can play it together. Like, it doesn't have to be an MMO. It doesn't have to be, it could be literally anything. Like, I just want to sit down and have that same sense of like creating these gaming memories. And like, I don't know, I used to take screenshots in World of Warcraft. I don't think I've taken screenshots in video games in the better part of the last decade. Like, it just doesn't feel like anything is memorable, like anything matters. Like some of these games I just log into to not lose my streak.
Yep. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, right? We're here for the social aspect. We're here for a little bit of escapism. We're here to just kind of build bonds and friendships with everyone. And whether that's over gaming, whether that's over just sitting in Discord and talking about your day. It's one of those things that we use this as a outlet a lot of the times. Sometimes the voices over the internet are the strongest voices that we hear.
I mean, we're all cellmates in the same prison, right, Probie?
Yep, absolutely.
I want my own cell.
All right. Well, with that said, I do want to thank everyone for taking time to join me in my prison, otherwise known as my mind, letting me kind of vent and giving me feedback, you guys. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
If I
It was a
may
great
for a
time.
second, I'd just like to shout out Ascended Gaming. We are a gaming community across several games. I mean, you met the four of us at this point, so come join us and meet everybody else. Discord link will be in the description below and in the description in all of the other places where you're listening to this.
Open to one and all.
We would love to have you, whether you're a gamer or not. We have a little bit of everything for everyone. And again, thank you for joining me in Probie's prison. Thank you, Artemis, Atiri, and Shub for joining me and giving me some of your time and thoughts. I greatly appreciate it. And hopefully one day we can break out.
We'll catch y'all next time.
Later.
Have a good one.
See ya.